Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to continue with day 4 of writing a cause and effect essay, and we're going to talk about writing a good introduction and a good conclusion. So let's get started. We've been talking about cause and effect. So if we look at these two photos here, we know that the rain is the cause, and the effect is that these beautiful flowers grow. The cause is the reason why something happens, and the effect is what happens. In our last lesson, we learned different phrases and different expressions to signal cause and effect for our reader. We talked about words like because, so, leads to, since, due to, and as a result. Now remember, the cause and effect essay, like all good pieces of writing, it's got an introduction, it's got a body, and it's got a conclusion, or a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about our introduction and our conclusion. Now, you can find this lesson and you can find all the supporting material as well as all my reading and writing workshop lessons in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, which are linked in this video description. So let's take a look at our cause and effect essay. And we've got the introduction from our mentor text. It says, I couldn't imagine a world without rules. Rules about driving help to keep us safe on the road. We need rules that ensure our food is safe to eat. Finally, laws keep dangerous people from hurting us, physically and emotionally. Having rules and laws helps us to lead safe and happy lives. Now remember, this essay is targeted at fourth grade learners, and in this particular unit, they've been reading about government and about the importance of rules and laws. So they're writing a cause and effect essay, and they're going to be focusing on the effects of not having any rules or any laws in society. So let's go and look at the different parts of this conclusion. Now, a good conclusion should hook the reader. It should introduce the topic. It should give the reader a roadmap. As my students get older, I call this a thesis map. These are the big points that you're going to use in support of your thesis. And finally, the last sentence of that introduction should be your thesis statement. So when you hook the reader, you get their attention with the very first sentence. So what are some ways that we can hook or engage our reader? We can use an exclamation or a strong statement. A world without rules would be chaos. We can ask the audience a question. As students get older, I tell them not to do these sorts of things, but I think for fourth graders, for young learners in general, I think this is a great way for them to engage the audience. And also my students really love using this strategy. So they might say something like, could you imagine living in a world where there were no rules whatsoever? Or they might choose a quote or a famous saying, such as, no man is above the law and no man is below it. Now, remember, when we use a quote or we use a famous saying, it's important that we make sense of it for our readers. So if your students choose this strategy, make sure that they know it's important to tell their audience how this is going to apply to the topic that they're speaking about or they're writing about. And that can tie into our next part, which is introducing the topic. So when we introduce the topic, we're simply telling our audience what we're writing about. Remember, English academic writing is direct in nature, so the audience has to know from the very beginning what topic you're writing on. And we're, of course, writing about the importance of rules in our society. And the roadmap helps the audience to know where we're going with our essay. What are the three big points that we're going to be talking about? Each of these big points is going to be its own body paragraph. And finally, your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is your argument. Remember, academic writing is based on this notion of argument. So, in this particular essay, you're arguing perhaps that rules are not important or that rules are essential. Either way, you're going to want to make this clear to your audience in your thesis statement. And remember, your thesis statement should be well placed. It should be the last sentence of your introduction, and it should be very specific. You don't want to leave any room for interpretation because you don't want your audience to have to guess what you mean. You want to tell them exactly what it is that you mean. And we're going to say having rules and laws helps us to lead safe and happy lives. So now let's look at our mentor text here. How does the author hook the reader? I couldn't imagine a world without rules. I think that's a pretty good initial sentence, opening sentence. Does the author do a good job of introducing the topic? Well, not really. They just mention rules, but they need to be more specific here. The author does give us a good roadmap. They mention the three things that they're going to be discussing, and the thesis statement is a strong one. Having rules and laws helps us to lead safe and happy lives. So let's take a look at our revised version. So we've got our hook. We revised this introduction of the topic. Some people think that rules are not important or are too restrictive. Okay, so here we're letting the reader know that this is what we're going to be discussing. Then the author moves into that roadmap or thesis map, which is really good. And then finally, the thesis statement. So as we can see here, we've got our entire model essay. And if we go and we look here, we see our food safe to eat, keep dangerous people from hurting us. Okay. Driving wouldn't be safe. Okay, the food wouldn't be safe to eat. And be safe from people who might try to hurt us. Oh, and here we go, help to keep us safe on the road. Okay, so we've got a great revised mentor text here. The conclusion of our cause and effect essay is very easy. We're not introducing any new information. We're simply restating what we've already told our audience in our introduction and the body of our essay. We want to signal the end of our essay. We call this signposting. Okay, we're going to restate our opinion. That's our thesis. We're going to summarize those three big effects. And then finally, we're going to leave our reader with a final thought. So when we signal the end of the essay, we can say things like, in conclusion, in closing, to wrap up, or to conclude. Now, those are not the only phrases. I think in conclusion is probably the most commonly used. We can also say things like to sum up or in summary. We want to restate our thesis or our opinion here. We want to try to use different words if possible. If your students are struggling with the structure of an academic essay and they simply want to restate what they wrote in their introduction, I think that's fine. So our thesis statement is having rules and laws helps us to lead safe and happy lives. If we want to restate that word for word, that's fine. We're going to summarize those three main points. Again, we're going to try and use slightly different language, keep us safe on the road, keep our food safe, and prevent people from hurting us. And finally, we're going to leave our reader with a concluding thought. This is an opportunity to be a little bit creative. Okay, we don't want to introduce any new information. We're not creating a new argument. We're just ending with a powerful statement. So these graphic organizers are included in this resource, and this gives the opportunity for students to outline their introduction and conclusion in their independent work portion of the lesson. Then they can come back to the carpet. They can share what the whatever work they did in their graphic organizers with the group. All right. So thank you so much for joining me for day 4 of this lesson, and I will see you in our next lesson here at the English Language Arts Gallery.